Hi, my name is Winsley, and welcome to my video on what is the summon limit in Age of Wonders 4, or basically how many units can you bring into a combat using the summon mechanic before you start seeing this message. The one that says invalid target in the middle here is basically saying we have too many units on the battlefield and you're going to need to kill off another one before we can actually summon in something like the Astral Keeper or Living Vines. So let's just go through the motions of actually killing off this unit, and we'll see that all of a sudden it will allow me to summon in more units. Now I could go in here and do the Conjure Astral Keeper, or I could do Living Vines, but what I found really interesting when I was testing this earlier is it wouldn't let me bring more than 63 units into the fight at the beginning here, but then once I killed off another unit, basically once I got down to 62, it would let me summon in another 5 more units than what currently was on the field, taking us to 68 units across both armies. What was really interesting about the army composition and the way they generate units here was I brought in a lot of Houndmasters, which generate these Warhounds, and I brought in some heroes that would bring along some more units to just see what the limitation was. And the defender was able to get in all of their summons before it brought in the units for the attacker. So the attacker only got 6 free units when it was built the same way as this army, which got another 6 here, another 7 units here because of the hero, and then another 8 units here. So it really got 15 free units here that the other army didn't because it was defender. And I think that there are some interesting strategies surrounding this interaction. Like if you wanted to, you could bring a lot of Houndmasters or other units that summon in units like the Wild Speaker to just kind of deny your opponent the ability to summon in things when it would be really impactful for them. So I have to admit, after that last test, I wasn't convinced with any level of certainty that I'd actually found the summon limit, because the battle started with us being unable to summon in things. What I did differently with my second test is I basically had 15 Houndmasters attack into 15 Houndmasters, which is basically 30 units on each side, taking us very close to the limit that I found of 63. Right now we have 60 units on the field, and if I were to try and summon in some vines, I can actually do that. It's going to allow me to do that right now. Um, and we'll see if I try to summon in more units for the other side, that basically there's too many on the field at this point. Right now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on top of the 60 that we had at the beginning here. So let's just kill off this guy. And this guy won't be able to reach far enough forward to kill off a third unit right there. Oh, actually, no, he can. So we can see in here, if I try to summon in thing, I'm getting the invalid target because I'm at 63 units. But if I come in here and I kill off a a unit here, that's going to take us down to 62, allowing me to bring in more units. Like we saw earlier, I could use the vines like this to go past 63 units. And that's a really interesting place to set the limit, because it seemed to me like it was 7 times 9 takes you to 63, and that could have been tied to the number of units you can bring into a fight. I think, yeah, 18 is the number of units you can bring into a fight. You multiply that by 3.5, and that takes you up to 63. But after talking about this with somebody else I play a bit of multiplayer with, Ninja was telling me basically that if you have 6 bits of information, you can basically create 64 unique tags to keep track of the units, and for some reason it just stops at 63. All right, now that we've looked at that in combat example of the summon limit, I think it would be useful to actually discuss how the summons compare to one another so that you can decide how to best use the summon limit to your advantage. And while I would like to look up all the different ways to summon in things using the in-game encyclopedia, as you can see here when you type in summon, it doesn't give you any of the units or spells that can summon in extra units. But the nice thing is we have the online database that we can use to just type in summon and get that information. As you can see here, there are 5 units that can bring extra units into a fight. All of these guys have timers on them. The summon Primal Crocodile will only be in the combat for 3 turns. Same with the Banshee from the Ghost Ship, and the Conjure Animal from the Wild Speaker, and the Conjure Runestone from the Fire Giant, and the Animate Flora from the Horned God, which is different from the Warhounds, the Wisps, and the Iron Golems assistants that we were seeing in the combat. I think there's one more thing that will bring in a unit that's in the fight for more than 3 turns. They're just in the fight for as long as they can stay alive, and I think that is the Crowmaster's bow. I may be forgetting one or two other examples off the top of my mind. Um, but yeah, as you can see here, once we go past this, the summon Mistling isn't talking about an in combat summon. What we want is the in combat summons for when we're looking at the spells, because we don't need to look at all of the ones that are strategic. We need the ones that are, yeah, like combat summon. So we'll just type into here combat summon, and as you can see, there's now 20 of those in this list. So yeah, we did talk a little bit about how you can conjure in a primal spider using a spell or using the animist. Same with all the other 7 primal animals. We also have after that the ability to get a progenitor golem. This is something you can get from clearing out a gold wonder. Very good unit. I don't know if this really applies to the something where you're gonna be able to summon in a lot of these and hit the summon limit because it's a very high cost, but it still kind of fits into this category of what we're talking about of combat summons. These are just, yeah, more strategics. I guess I should probably be using the arrows to jump between these, right? That would be smart. So after that, we have uh, the Avatar. That's a tier 5. That's not going to come into play very early on. So yeah, this is a combat summon, but we don't need to talk about that. Versus this tier 4, it comes on into play a little bit earlier, but still, I don't know. You do get some units like the Serpent or the Siphoner, and I like those units in general. I'm starting to see them a little bit more. Another tier 5 that I don't feel like we need to really focus in on. But this one, yeah, this is something that comes into play a little bit earlier. You can get the Tome of you can get, yeah, Tome of Amplification to get a pylon, but something tells me this one isn't amazing compared to the other things that actually act themselves. Another tier 5 tome, and after that we have Animate Flora. This is a good one. This is one I think you can get online early enough that you can just put a lot of those units out and control the enemy pretty efficiently. It's slightly cheaper than the Primal Animals, but it's similar. It's a tier 2, kind of like they are. Um, but I think it also runs into a lot of issues as I think something that does blight damage. We have our Vine Prison, which we've already talked about. That's an amazing spell to just put bodies on the field. I think that's actually kind of like very, very critical if you're trying to deny your enemy the ability to summon in things, because they're probably going to kill off your own units, and being able to summon in 5 every turn for, I think, yeah, it says 2 turns in a 2 hex radius is not bad. Not bad at all. I thought it was 1 turn. Maybe that changed and didn't get updated here. There's the Astral Keeper, which is actually very similar to the Animate Flora. It's another tier 2 that you can get from a tier 2 tome. And one thing we didn't talk about earlier is they did move the Conjure Primal Animals to something you can't get after you've until you've unlocked, I think, your second tome, or maybe you started getting to tier 2 tomes. So it's something that would come online around the same time as Conjurer Astral Keeper. It makes sense that you can't get it too early, because you can't get these units, Astral Keepers, too early either. There's the Divine Beacon. Yeah, this is very similar to the Pylon. It does something, but since it doesn't act, I don't know if I like it as much as the other ones for, denying enemy actions. Astral Reflections is very good. This one's very nice if you can get it on things like Nymphs, who can then cleanse other units, because the Astral Echoes will be weaker, but they will still have access to all the same abilities. So if your unit is just something that does supports, or has supporting skills, it doesn't matter that it's doing less damage. Summoning Well, yeah, I guess it's kind of relevant, but that's more for the out of combat stuff. So now that we've gone through that, we can think a little bit about the other parts. The world structure is the thing that I think I mentioned earlier, the summon progenitor golem. Yeah, Vault Sphere. I don't remember seeing it called Vault Sphere because they have different names um, in the in-game files and on the map. Hero skills are things that we talked a little bit about earlier, but most of the ones here are actually pretty insignificant things that aren't going to come into play in most games. Like the Ascension things are just not relevant. We did mention how the Grimbreak Crow was something that would work kind of like the Wisps or the Iron Golem assistant. It comes at the beginning, and you need a weapon, a Pantheon weapon, in order to get access to that. We don't need to worry about this one. Summon Undead is signature skills. Yes, there's of course the signature skills. The Summon Undead is pretty good because you can get a Corrupted Soul or a Banshee, both very nice units. Summon Elementals. It's a big dice roll. You don't know what you're going to get, and sometimes one is not useful to what you are trying to accomplish, and sometimes it's exactly what you need. Animals are great, and then there is the Dark Ritual, which brings in more bodies. It can revive undead and make them a tricky thing for you to try and deal with. Uh, which is actually very similar to some of the things you can do with the item forge, but let's not talk about that until we're sure we've gone through everything that's important here. All right, yeah, all the primal animal guys will have access to staffs that can summon in their guys, so that's pretty cool. I haven't played much around with that and the item forge, but I kind of want to see how that works with other primals if you're on the same team. Uh, there's the Staff of Eniok, which used to be something that you'd see when you're clearing out silver wonders, but now I think those things are a little bit more random, so it's I think slightly harder to get the Staff of Eniok. But yeah, this would give you Decaying Zombie next to the hero every turn for the first 3 turns of combat, which is it's a lot of units. It's kind of like using Dark Ritual, but you don't have to have bodies to make the most out of it. And then I don't remember ever seeing Archon's Deliverance. This is something that can call in a Lightbringer, which is very good. That means you can like dominate other units using a free unit. And then, well, actually, if they only last for 3 turns, I don't think dominating is the way you want to use that Lightbringer. Yeah, that's I hadn't considered that until just now. There are these items that you can get, the things that bring in some random tier 1 spiders, or you can even get the ability to summon in a tier 4 spider and a tier 2 spider from other items, but this one's the most common. The spider hatching bell giving the weaker summon tends to be something that you actually come across more often. I mean, that makes sense. It's less good, so more common. I did mention earlier that you can use the item forge to get items that summon in units. And as you can see here, if we wanted to, we can use a wand to just get the tier 1 spider summon. But if I had access to other magic materials, I could also get access to the tier 2 and the tier 4 one that we were just talking about. And then there's also the ability to conjure in just a random tier 1 unit. You need haste berries, but that's easier to get than the one that requires 3 silver tongue fruit. Yeah, you'd need 3 magic materials in order to unlock this one because it is just generally a very good summon. And then, of course, there is Animate Flora, which the game is saying is slightly better than the tier 2 spider. It's interesting because they're both tier 2 units, and I think they are right. Okay, I'm seeing the difference now. This one has a cooldown of 2, so that's actually why it would be better. You can continuously use this, but you do need floral obstacles in order to turn into those units. So I don't know if I actually like that as much. It does have a range 4, whereas this one's range 1. Okay, yeah, not that's actually an important consideration. And then raise undead is another way that you can get another unit onto the field, or bring back other units, which I guess is kind of like adding units. And I guess if we're using that logic, we could say that this resurrection is also kind of like summoning in a unit. It's adding another unit to the field, so that could allow you to reach the summon limit and deny your enemy the ability to summon in units, making the fight easier for you. And yeah, that's pretty much everything I had for you today. I'll see you around. Have a good one.